That would be a verb. And this is what we call a direct quotation. A direct quotation. And when you see quotation marks in print, it means that the author of whatever it is that you're reading is quoting word for word what the other person said. Direct quotation. Now, here's another example. We're watching television last night. And on television, the weatherman, the person who reports the weatherman reported, quote, "Yesterday was the hottest day of the year," quote. Those are his words, word for word. Now, sometimes you will see written direct quotations. Sometimes we'll see indirect quotations. When we do indirect speech, we tell someone else what someone said indirectly. We don't use their words word for word. Here's an example. Well, we don't use quotation marks. What we do is we create a clause. So instead of saying, the teacher said, quote, "To learn a new language we must practice every day," quote, what we would say if we wanted to do this in indirect speech, we would say, "The teacher said that to learn a new language we must practice every day." Now, do you see the difference? In the former, we are using the teacher's words word for word. We haven't changed any words, and we are showing that these are the exact words. We're saying directly what the teacher said by using these quotation marks. Indirectly, we're just saying what the teacher said, but we're not using the very same words that the teacher did. It's indirect. Both ways are correct. Both ways are correct. It's just that we call one direct speech, we call one indirect speech. This is a direct quotation, and that is an indirect quotation. Now, where that becomes important is when you're reading. Let's say you're reading a news magazine or you're reading a newspaper. If you see the quotation, if you see the quotation marks, you know that that is exactly what the person said. But if you don't see the quotation marks, then what you're reading is what an author has interpreted that other person to have said. So it's indirect. In the one case, we know the author is giving us the other person's words word for word, exactly. In indirect, we know what the person said, but we don't know how accurate that interpretation is. So direct speech is more emphatic. It's more accurate than indirect speech. But sometimes accurate. Oh, that's a new word? That's a good word. That's a good word. Where did I get? Oh, here it is. Yeah. Accurate. Accurate means very precise. Very precise. Do you know what precise means? No? Accurate and precise means very, very, very close, very exact. You know what exact means? Okay, yeah. So if something is accurate, it is very exact. So accurate, exact, precise, all similar meanings. Okay. So we know that the direct speech, direct quotations, they are more precise, they are more accurate. We know when we are told what someone said through a direct quotation, that those are the exact words. If we are told what someone said through an indirect speech, then we have to trust the writer, we have to trust the author that that is an accurate interpretation of what the other person said. So these are examples of indirect speech. The teacher said that to learn a new language we must practice every day. We don't know whether those are the exact words or not of the teacher. On television, the weatherman reported that yesterday was the hottest day of the year. We don't know that those are the exact words that the weatherman said. We just know that that's what the weatherman meant to say. Okay, direct speech, indirect speech.
Mr. May I ask?
Yeah.
Indirect speech use that. This is not now clauses because no subject.
Right. It's it is a clause. It is a noun clause, but the order of the words is a little bit different. When we look at this clause right here, technically, and I don't want to get into real complicated grammar, because we're not trying to learn grammar. We want to learn conversational speech. But since you asked the question, to learn a new language, it is a noun clause because we have a subject, we have a verb. So we could say, we must practice every day to learn a new language is a clause. It is a clause. And this is the main clause, the teacher said. But the order of the words in this clause is a little bit different when we use indirect speech. But technically it is a clause. And when we use indirect speech, we are always using clauses. The word that introduces indirect speech most of the time is that. But there could be other words. We could use which, we could use whenever, we could use wherever. There are different words we could use to introduce the clause. The one that you will see most often, and we'll do some practice exercises, is that. Now, let's, so we have indirect questions, we have direct questions, we have indirect questions. Direct speech, indirect speech. Let me kind of go over this again. Notice the difference. When we ask a direct question, the teacher said, quote, to learn a new language we must practice every day. Quote. So the exact words of the teacher start here and end here. Now, if we wanted to turn that into indirect speech, we would say, the teacher said that to learn a new language we must practice every day. So we've introduced a clause here. It's less emphatic, it's less precise. On television, the weatherman reported, quote, yesterday was the hottest day of the year. Indirect, on television, the weatherman reported that yesterday was the hottest day of the year. Here we know that these are his exact words. Here, we don't know whether those were the exact words or not. I mean, it could have been that the weatherman said, yesterday the temperature was 36 degrees and it's never been that hot before ever in Bangkok. I mean, that could have been what he said. But then when this was reported to us, the person just said, well, he said it was the hottest day of the year. You see, it's indirect. Okay? So let's do a little bit of practice with this. We're going to turn direct statements into indirect statements. So let's use this book, the graded exercises, and over on page 132. And we'll just do a few of these. It won't, we'll just do a few of these to make sure that we get the idea, you know, that we know how to do it. I'll do the first one. The first one said, is the quotation is, he said, quotation, I will be here at noon. Now, in order to turn that into an indirect speech, I would say, he said that he would be here at noon. Okay? Now, somebody want to try number 2? Who wants to give number 2 a try? Who feels real bold? You're going to do it, Kat? Uh-huh.
Mary said that the train will probably arrive on time.
Correct. Uh-huh. All we did in this case is we